Basketball is very good. OKC would make the finals in the East. Ben Simmons doesn't need a jumper. Terry Rozier is more clutch than Kyrie. Basketball is very good. Basketball is very good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ringer NBA show. It's Group Chat.
Yo.
It's Jason Concepcion, Kevin O'Connor, Justin Verrier, Chris Ryan, Paolo Getty, Blog Boys, Bitcoin Boys in the back, everybody in the booth. Congrats to Steph Snowden of the Washington Capitals. Woo! We are here. Oh, there was a basketball game. We are here to talk about Celtics, Cavs, Game 5. We're going to talk a little bit about NBA offseason stuff, a little bit about the Warriors Rockets. Hit us up with questions, comments, and concerns at #RingerNBA. Kevin O'Connor, I'm going to tell you something right now.
Okay.
And I feel weird. I feel slightly dirty saying this. I feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience.
Okay.
Jason Tatum was the best player on the floor tonight.
Whoa! Oh! That's some spice for me.
It's not even that spicy. It's not even that spicy. It was.
He
We
was
watched.
outstanding.
I think earlier in the day, the talk about this Celtics team is that when it gets to this kind of point in the series, right, when they're up against not up against the wall, but when they are even with the Cavs like this, who is going to be the person who gets the basket when they need it? And time after time tonight, it was Tatum.
And he did more than just get the baskets. He racked up assists, steals, jumped in passing lanes, had some weak side blocks, rebounded. Tatum did absolutely everything for the Celtics. So to your point, tonight at least, he
for
was
one
the best
night
player
only.
on the floor.
His plus minus, just 19.
Unbelievable.
This is kind of
His plus minus was we're not talking enough about the job he's doing.
This is the game we were waiting for him to have, essentially,
Yeah.
which is weird to say because he is the youngest player on the floor. But that's where we are with the Celtics team. A guy like that just plays completely above his head. Jaylen Brown also had a really good game.
Guys, I thought it was interesting that Terry Rozier was 3 for 15 tonight because usually if that's the kind of performance you're getting out of your starting point guard, it does not augur well for a victory.
Usually that only happens on the road with Terry.
Yes, right, exactly. He had a Cleveland. More broadly speaking, I guess we could talk a little bit about the Cavs, although look at this Cavs team. I mean, LeBron James, they put him out there for almost 40 minutes in what was not even as close as the 13-point victory suggests. The other guys got to show up.
Yeah, how many times can you really say versions of that? I thought the Celtics did a really good job of letting Jordan Clarkson and J.R. Smith get the ball and do things because those two guys were bad.
Yeah.
And it was like almost as if they were working undercover for the Celtics.
It's so weird how tetchy LeBron has been historically over the course of his career, that the ride or die guy for him is JR. That's the guy that, like, he seems to have JR blindness.
Well, you just feel like if he gets into one of those grooves where he hits 4 threes, 5 threes, they likely win the game. If they can get anything from him, it would be great if they could get anything from anyone not named LeBron James and Kevin Love. I mean,
it's not getting that much from Kevin Love, though. It's 14 points.
Yeah, but at least that's something. Everyone else, Tristan Thompson, 1 point. J.R. Smith, 2 points. George Hill, 7 points. Larry Nance Jr., 2 points. It's like...
And the funny thing is with LeBron, he hit a lot of tough shots tonight, too. It's not like he was getting it easy either.
Working so hard to get every point.
Yeah, it wasn't like that game in Cleveland where it was over as soon as the first quarter basically ended, but it did feel that way at halftime where the Celtics had such an insurmountable advantage that the game was effectively over. And I think it was weird that the Celtics were shooting, I think, over 40% from 3 at home, as opposed to what they were doing on the road. I can't account for the disparity that's happening with their offense, but when they show up, and maybe it has something to do with the Cavs defense or whatever, but when they show up, it almost feels like the Cavs can't punch back.
Oh yeah, not at all. I mean, is it
Celtics
harsh
offense
language? Like, what is the magic of Boston that makes?
I mean, Celtics offense wasn't that terrific tonight, though. They had like a 103 offensive rating.
But it started really well.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that was
for sure.
enough to where the stats might be skewed at the end
For
of the
sure,
game.
yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. I think that last night, like, it was just like this chaotic symphony of athleticism, long-range shooting, tactical innovation,
Missed dunks.
positional flexibility, missed dunks. Tonight was not that. I mean, there's promise on both of these teams, and especially for Boston, I think the future is obviously really bright. But let me go through a couple of teams from the West, and I want to know if you think that they could beat these teams. Because in our intro music, we have OKC would win the East. But I'm asking you, what would a series between Oklahoma City and Cleveland look like? Like, what's the disparity here
I think that's
between the conferences?
It's probably like a 6-game win for the Thunder. Like, this is both of these teams. It's hard to escape the reality that you watch this, and both these teams are going to get waxed by whoever comes out of the West.
See, I look at what the Celtics have done against LeBron and with their defense, and I think they would be able to take advantage of some of the flaws on the Thunder's roster in the same exact way. Andre Roberson, not that good. That's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, right. Kevin, what do you think? Is there a disparity, or are we seeing? Is this just the styles makes fights kind of thing?
Versus Houston and Golden State, or like other teams like Utah.
Below Houston and Golden State.
I mean, Boston has the best defense in basketball, and that gives them a chance for sure. And then Al Horford's an all-star, and Jason Tatum's playing like one sometimes. So I mean, I think they would have a shot against those teams for sure.
You think they could beat the Thunder?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm just messing with you. Paolo, did you want to jump in? I feel like you're.
No, I just think they would. I think the Cavs would beat the Thunder. I think we forget that Carmelo Anthony was on that team and he was playing 30-plus minutes a night. I think that would be enough. You know what? Sure, but you guys kind of did.
What was the Carmelo social thing today? What happened with Carmelo?
That might be like fake news, so I don't know if I want to go down
that. This is the
that
time of fake news. I already still believe that Tom Thibodeau threw a computer through somebody's window.
It was basically like a revisionist history Instagram post about comparing Kyle Korver to Carmelo Anthony and being like,
are we sure?
Yeah, are we sure Carmelo Anthony like Kyle Korver is better than Carmelo Anthony?
But it was. Are we sure? We know that Melo had a better career, but are we sure that Kyle didn't have a better season?
Yeah,
right.
And then Melo allegedly went F out of here.
Okay. Yeah. FOH.
He's like, I got to comment on this. He's like, this crosses the line.
Paolo, did you have a question for us?
Well, there was a question about the Cavs specifically. You guys were talking about JR, and user HWG Cleveland wanted to know, does anybody have an answer for J.R. Smith's minutes monopoly over Kyle Korver in this game? Is it just that Korver is just a defensive liability that bad?
Is Korver also still tired from Game 4?
Yeah, that could. I mean, Jason Lloyd should ask Tyronn Lue in very aggressive fashion. Why is J.R. Smith taking on the minutes?
Because I wanted Jason for asking that about Rodney Hood. That was great.
I mean, could it just be as simple as matchups where Korver is effectively a 4 now, whereas Smith, even though he isn't good defensively, he can maybe stick with some guards or at least pretend to match up with him?
J.R. Smith bit on like 4 pump fakes.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown had so many wide open threes.
Where he flew practically into the crowd in this game.
In defense of Ty Lue. Like, look at his options.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like,
let's be real now. Okay. Let's look at his options here.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Like, maybe Korver is the type of player at 37 years old that when he gets into minute 25, 26, his production declines. So, like, maybe you need to keep him around 20 minutes in order to maximize his play. Like, that's always a possibility. Like, there's nobody else on that bench you're really comfortable throwing out there.
All right, this is a good segue, Kevin, because whenever you give me a take like that, I immediately think of Skip Bayless.
I thought it was going to be Joe Prunty.
Skip's tweeted today, this is just pathetic. LeBron is sitting on the scorer's table chugging water, trying to show the gullible witnesses that he's, quote, dehydrated. Next, we'll hear he's suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome. Unnecessary shot at a very real disease, Skip. Unreal. Which probably should be undisputed. But fatigue is something that I feel like has come up a little bit more in these playoffs. We talked about this last night when we were doing Rockets Warriors. You know, these teams typically have 8, 9, 10-man rotations during the regular season. They're being shortened to 7, sometimes 8. And we're seeing a lot more minutes per guys. LeBron did not look like peak LeBron tonight, to say the least, even though, you know, he put up his numbers. How much of an asterisk are you putting on these things for exhaustion, you know? Is this a chess move by LeBron to be like, I'm saving everything for Game 7 back here?
I mean, honestly, it kind of is. He has to pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, as we've been saying, he's not getting a lot of help from the roster, and it's unlikely that you can count on any of the guys showing up at any given time, even though they are going home. He has to do everything. And yeah, I mean, there was a play going into the half where it was like they called a timeout, and LeBron was just lagging way behind everybody going to the bench.
They subbed him out with 2 minutes left in the first half.
He just looked absolutely gassed, and it's like, it's not an act. The guy is like...
He played 82 games,
yeah.
Right? He's playing more playoff games than he's had to before the finals and the whole decade.
Add up all those playoff games that he's had, and that's how many extra seasons, seasons.
Yeah,
it's
like a full 2 or 3 seasons extra.
And they always say a playoff minute is worth 2 in the regular season.
For sure.
And then you watch the way he has to score. Like, it's post-ups and a lot of dribbling and just reposting, and it's so much energy.
Right. If you're not going to get space.
Really a tough Indiana series, and now against Boston, one of the best defenses in the league. Everything's tough.
I would just say also that given the precarious nature of his contract for Cleveland and the lack of clarity over whether or not he's going to come back.
He's going to the Lakers.
No. He's going to the Lakers. I haven't seen a supporting cast get devalued. Like, these guys are like the new Cavs are basically like a bunch of new cars that get driven off the lot. They have been depreciating at decreasing amounts, since they've kind of arrived, and the playoffs have really made these guys not look ready for prime time. If you're him, if they had lost to the Pacers, not that he would have stayed if that would have happened, but you could have just kind of written it off to we're just still getting used to each other. Yeah. I don't know, man. Clarkson and Nance out here just don't look like they belong.
They look like they're still in the Lakers.
Yeah.
They feel like they haven't shaken off that way of play. And even when Nance was doing things well, seems like he didn't know how to finish over guys at the rim. He got into it with Marcus Morris, which didn't seem like a wise idea because after all that, he still didn't get Morris tossed, so nothing really came of it.
The run stopper, yeah.
Right, and because Rodney Hood has been such a disappointment to the point where he's only playing 3 minutes in garbage time in a game that was basically
hit 2 shots though at the end.
Yeah. My guy had those stats. But you have to play Clarkson more and just roll the dice with him and hope that he comes up with something. And more often than not, that's not going to happen.
You have to play Clarkson more is just a rough place to be if you're
But look at their guard rotation.
Yeah.
Do you have a Clarkson question?
Yeah, there was a question on Twitter from DWeb10. Would you rather have Jordan Clarkson or a one-armed LeBron James?
I mean,
one arm.
I think one-armed LeBron James is way better than Jordan Clarkson.
He could finish way better with the one arm.
I might take a one-armed semi-Ojale at this point.
It could be either arm, too. You would take a left-handed LeBron still.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been watching these playoffs, and especially with these Cavs series, with the exception of RIP Toronto Raptors, it does just feel like these guys are trying to win out at home and boil the series down to a game, a half, a quarter. You know what I mean? Everything is going to come down to that. So now Cleveland's in 2 must-win positions. They play very well at home. Boston plays very poorly on the road. Is there anything to suggest to you that LeBron is saving a historic Garden performance for Game 7? I mean, we've been talking. I don't even like talking about sports in this way as if guys are hedging their bets. But if you watch the playoffs, it's hard not to think anything else.
I mean, that's the Popovich plan, right? Every time a team is threatening to blow out his team, especially as they got into the tail end of his Core's career, they would just pump the brakes a little bit. And I think LeBron, honestly, it's a survival thing. He has to do that. And I hope he's saving it up for Game 7 because I'd like to see it one more time. There's few things in sports more thrilling than when LeBron really pulls one down and it's gives you that 40-point triple-double to save the season one more time with a bunch of nobodies on his team.
I guess the question is a 40-point triple-double at the Garden enough to win Game 7 in Boston?
Depends on what Tatum's doing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It depends on what Terry Rozier's doing. He would need to be better than 3 of 15 tonight. Jaylen Brown would have to be better than 4 of 15, and you would probably need Tatum to be even better than 7 of 15 if LeBron's having a historic night like that.
Do we feel like either team learned anything from this game? For instance,
nothing.
Bain started for the Celtics. Do you think that had any effect on maybe the rotations and the way things played
That's actually a good point. I forgot that Bain started.
I think, Cleveland was attacking those switches a little bit differently.
Yeah.
When Boston would switch Rozier off and put Baines on LeBron after a pick and roll, Cleveland was sagging back and then attacking from the perimeter rather than having a post up. That was a little different. So maybe Boston will have a counterattack to that in Game 6.
To the point about to the point about rotations, Ty Lue's on the podium right now, and he said that specifically about Korver. He said that Shemi was Korver's matchup, and it threw the Cavs for a loop when Shemi wasn't in.
Do you really want to go out there and just
Yeah, I
be
don't
like
know.
Brad Stevens checkmated me tonight?
That's essentially what he's admitting, right?
not great.
Shemi only played 9 minutes last game, though, when that was Korver's best game probably of the series.
Ty Lue is an unreliable narrator.
I like the idea of Ty Lue saying Jimmy and being, not seeing him and being like,
Can't believe Korver.
Abdul Nader tonight. He just those 3 minutes threw us off.
You know what? I think what some coaches do, they just throw stuff out there and just hope that the media takes it. Like, they don't even mean what they say.
So, Kev, is this a... Oh, so go ahead, pal.
No, he did also admit that he said he looked a little tired to me, yes, about LeBron.
Korver.
About LeBron.
Oh, about LeBron.
Yeah, he said he looked a little tired to me.
incredible stuff from Ty Lue.
Great insight.
Kev, so this is going to be a one-game series, Game 7. Do you think that there's any chance that Boston finds some road mojo?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
I mean, with their defense, of course, there's a chance.
But are they like 1-9 on the road in the playoffs right now?
I mean, how much does it matter, though? We're looking ahead. I mean that in all seriousness.
Yeah, okay.
Like, what does it matter sometimes what team's done in the past?
Honestly, I do
right
think
now?
it's kind of a trap game for Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if the sun is going to one day expand and destroy like all the planets of the inner universe, of the inner galaxy, does it really matter? Does anything really matter?
Why are we here?
I'm just saying, you know,
Why are we even doing this podcast?
Why are we doing it?
I can't account for it, but they were like the same shots they were taking early in that first half were just going in every time.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's confidence. I don't know if that's crowd. I don't know if it's familiarity with the rims. But there is a significant difference to what the Celtics are doing at home.
Yeah, you're right. All right, let me get a quick prediction for Game 6 from you guys.
Celtics win.
Yes.
Cavs win.
Cavs, I guess.
I like you. I'm going with Celtics. I'm going with like a weird, like LeBron is like, I'm going on vacation.
Yeah, it's time to go to LA.
Paolo, any other Boston, Cleveland stuff before we move on and talk a little Rockets, Warriors before?
Well, I think it's interesting that Justin was saying they shoot better at home, but like they shot 36% from the field tonight.
I think early on they had enough success that the game completely changed.
Right.
They
And I
kind
think
of did.
that's
You know
my
what they did
take.
tonight was not unlike what Golden State did to Houston yesterday, which is
Right.
come out with this huge knockout punch.
Yeah.
But unlike Houston, Cleveland never never got on a run to get back in it. Really, I think they got it down to like 7 or 8, maybe, but this never felt like it was at all in contention.
LeBron took his foot off the gas pedal.
That's what I was
And
going to
I think
say.
things kind of trickled down from there. I do wonder maybe that is for his benefit, if I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat here, that he took his foot off the gas pedal and now all of a sudden maybe he has more energy because he didn't go for it now. There's a lot of assumptions going on in that declaration, but I don't know. He needs everything he can get because clearly like the team is going to ebb and flow based on if he scores 40.
I think LeBron is so self-confident that he sees like a hot quarter from the Celtics and he's like, okay, I'm just going to like not go all in right now, and if there's a spot for me to pick my spot,
So he's
and
going to
go
have
in,
to, if they go to Game 7 and that happens, they come out and throw a haymaker in the first quarter. LeBron's going to need to decide to actually go full tilt.
Why would LeBron like throw a game away though?
That's
Like,
what I'm asking.
saying he's throwing a game away.
It's like
No,
it
I mean,
just
like,
feels like
it's
more
like-
and more teams are like, well.
It does feel like
Yeah, I
that.
mean-
There's just in terms of like the leads that get accrued in these games. It does mildly feel like teams are just like, okay, if it doesn't happen, if we can't cut it to 10 in the next X amount of minutes, then
But when like LeBron like hustles the ball up the court and kicks it out to Jordan Clarkson, and he clanks it off the rim.
Yeah,
that's not LeBron taking it easy. It's just
No. I don't think it's
sucking
taking it
it.
easy, but there's something that feels almost like people are thinking in terms of a 7-game series rather than if we go all out tonight. You know what I mean? Like, and I almost feel like that's been happening a lot in this series. Obviously, they swept the Raptors. It was just complete barnstorming. But you know, like this just feels like these guys are like, we'll be back here in a few days.
I don't think it also has to be a conscious decision. It could just be a few plays don't go the right way, and he sees things that aren't going well, and he almost slumps as a result of it. Maybe he goes a little bit slower, and those things accumulate to the point where they're down multiple points.
I think we're just used to watching basketball, sitting here and being like, here come X. Here comes the Cavs, here comes the Rockets. And the only team really that we've seen like storm back in a game has been the Rockets last night. Right? Like, can you think of a conference finals game where the team that was down double digits came back and won?
Celtics did earlier in the series.
In this series?
In this series,
Okay.
Was it game 2?
Game 2, yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Cavs and the Rockets just briefly. Justin and I obviously talked a bunch about this yesterday on the Ringer NBA show. Kevin, you were there.
thank God you got out.
Thank God you got out.
No hopping a fence after game 4.
I wanted to ask you because Iggy, questionable. Clay, we're not sure. Did you feel like he looked like himself?
No way.
Okay.
I mean, after he went down holding his knee, came back, airballed his first shot, and he hit some after that. because he's Klay Thompson. He can probably shoot, not having a jump.
He is Klay Thompson.
Yeah, but he certainly wasn't moving the same on the defensive end, around offense, running through screens didn't look the same. And if he's limited at all, and Iguodala's out, Houston can steal another one for sure, I think. No doubt.
I'm really fascinated. This series could go on for like 10 more games, as far as I'm concerned.
It's so good.
What were you going to do if you were stuck in the fenced-off area? Were you going to go like Bear Grylls and like drink your pee to survive?
What's that movie where it's like Jennifer Connelly has to stay overnight in a Walmart and they use the barbecue?
Career Opportunities.
Career Opportunity, like that.
Frank Whaley.
Yeah.
What was the one where Tom
Big
Hanks
next.
was stuck in the airport?
The terminal. The terminal. So we call it the Oracle, and it's Kevin stuck in Oracle Arena.
We can really milk this for a few weeks
It
now.
writes itself. Was there anything you felt like you noticed watching Golden State live over the last couple of nights that you just hadn't noticed maybe on TV? Is there anything like we don't see when we're watching the left to right stuff that you noticed from the way they've been playing, or even Houston?
I mean, I think Houston's played them hard the entire series, and that's even more apparent in seeing it in person. Like, they play them tough, right? Like, everything's hard for Golden State. Even, like, in that 41-point loss in Game 3, it sounds ridiculous to say, but up until the middle of the third quarter, Houston made it hard on Golden State. Like, they really have to fight with their little quirky little, fancy off-ball actions with a lot of isolations. Like, they're running double the ISOs this year with a lot with KD. So Houston has really changed the Golden State's offense with their intense defense, and then Game 4, obviously, they took it to another level.
So I talk about that because like Verno was roasting you. Verno was putting you on the barbecue when you were talking about how they are like the scheme is actually good, but it's just like what can you do when a team is that talented, and sometimes they're going to win by 41 points, but like. That is the correct defensive approach to play that.
For sure. Like, the funny thing is like today people were tweeting me and Chris, like some people telling Chris he needed to apologize to me, and me telling Chris I need to apologize to him.
Yeah.
So it's like people still like are one side of the fence or the other. I still
one
tend
side
to think,
I like what you did there. One side of the fence.
Well done.
I still think it's Houston entered the series with a terrific game plan, and they made a tweak in Game 4. Especially Iguodala out, Klay Thompson now maybe injured.
Sure.
That took them to another level on the defensive end. We'll see how Golden State responds.
Listen, I'm not going to root for injuries. I'm very pro-human here on this podcast.
That's really good. We got some incredible takes in this podcast.
Really wild takes.
Right. But wouldn't it not be better for the rest of the league if it sees that the Warriors aren't infallible, that
they're fallible,
that they're fallible, right?
Yeah, we've seen that they're infallible. Yeah.
Yes, but if a few injuries knock them off their pedestal, the Rockets advance because they've gone for it, and now all of a sudden people aren't tanking as much. What if this is the answer to tanking that we're looking for?
So you think that the Rockets beating the Warriors inspires the Magic not to tank?
100%. I love this. This is a very Grindelwald for the Harry Potter.
Don't blow it up.
For the greater good.
Travis
Shouldn't we root for injuries here?
Here's the thing: is I do think a Houston-Boston finals is inspirational, and let me tell you that as someone who will not be watching a Houston-Boston finals.
That is your worst nightmare.
Yes, I am going to Atlantis if that happens.
With Joel?
Pally, do you have a question?
Yeah,
for
we
us?
got a question. Is it possible that the Celtics are just not going to lose at home through this entire postseason and lose to either Golden State or Houston in 7? So essentially carry every single game at the Garden until Game 7 of the finals.
I mean, it's possible.
I think the more interesting question here is like, how do they match up if they against either of these teams?
I think
Will
they
they
match
steal
up
a game?
great physically and poorly talent-wise.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you know, like?
Yeah, I mean, like they have the best defense in basketball.
Right.
So it's like, they could potentially steal a game or here, They could.
Will the Celtics rather an injured Warriors team or the Rockets where they are now with Luke perhaps not being a factor?
Injured Warriors.
Hashtag Ringer NBA if you have
believe.
questions about Celtics Cavs. I can't imagine you really do. Rockets Warriors, off-season stuff. Doc got re-up today. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little Kawhi rumors, cat rumors. We got a lot. I'm really excited. Off-season is the new season. That's my thing.
It's the best time
Any
of the
other
year.
like the Warriors Rockets stuff? I'm just trying to think if there was anything we wanted to hit with that. I guess I don't want to talk about fatigue anymore. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. Zach Mack came up to me today and told me that a Golden State Warriors buddy, Zach Mack's one of our podcast producers, and he said that his Golden State buddy was like out on Durant. Durant was screwing up their offense holding up the ball. Now, I don't know who this guy is.
Zach Magnier.
Yeah, I think his friend also is just tweeting at LeBron James for drinking water on the scorer's table. Did you get any sense of frustration from Warriors fans like that you saw in Oakland? Was there any No,
and there shouldn't be, because if you don't have Kevin Durant, then what do you do when Houston's forcing you into those isolations?
Right.
It's only Steph.
He should have taken that.
Guy.
He should have taken that last shot.
Yeah,
they didn't
the last shot will go down.
Those fans don't care, man. They're just checking their iWatches for their checking the stock exchange.
I believe the term is Apple Watch.
Elon.
Pal, any other Rockets Warriors stuff?
We actually don't have any questions about that yet, but
That's okay.
I will say I think that it's been noted on Twitter and just people talking about the Warriors crowd that they do have a certain different type of maybe embracement of Curry than they do of Durant. And I don't know where it's just because Curry has been there longer. It's just he's I think he's more fun to watch personally, but I get why they're somehow pitting them against it.
I kind of see it. It's first significant other versus second significant. KD is the thing that weaponized the Warriors and made them indestructible, and Steph was the thing that made them lovable. I mean, you're never gonna fall out of love with that.
Really poetic,
right?
It's like Wade in Miami.
Yes.
I assume
Yes.
during that era they thought Wade was their guy and LeBron was just a hired hand, essentially.
Yeah, I think that Kevin definitely changes a little bit of the way they play, but Kevin's also the safety valve for sure. You're right. I mean, those ISOs do become Steph.
You need to isolate in the playoffs.
Any interesting talk from around the conference finals, any rumblings you heard? Because I want to talk a little bit about off-season stuff and some of the other teams that are sort of positioning themselves. Did you talk to anybody about any of this stuff that's been bubbling up? Kawhi stuff?
Not really Kawhi stuff or anything like that. There's really nothing new with that as far as I know. But
did a guy named Uncle Dennis buttonhole you in
no,
all the way?
Uncle Dennis. Just really an extension of some of the combine stuff that we wrote about on the Ringer this week.
Okay, yeah, definitely check out Kevin's combine article. We got to talk about Doc, the Lord of Wilshire Country Club.
Love it.
Out of him.
Ice back there, the #1 Clippers fan at the Ringer. How are you feeling about this? I know we're not gonna be able to hear you, so I have to relay it. Single tear emoji running down Isaac Lee's face. Doc Rivers re-upped with the Clippers as a coach, received with a lot of mixed emotion on our Ringer NBA Slack today.
I was the only pro voice.
You were pro Doc. Why don't you make the case for Doc?
I just don't see why it's such a bad move. He did a particularly good job this year with the least amount of talent he's had in his run there.
Yeah.
And if you take away his GMing power, which is his biggest flaw, he's still able to do enough on the coaching end that they were able to flirt with, the 9 seed ultimately.
Yeah.
I still think he got a lot out of some of those guys that I think maybe other coaches might not have been. And you look at what they're trying to do, where they're trying to walk this line between still being competitive sort of while also building for the future. I think he really fits that MO because he's shown that he could work with guys like Jawan Evans and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did you think of it?
I thought it was a little, I think they need to rebuild. And Doc, part of the reason he left the Celtics is just he didn't want to be there for the rebuild. Now, if they're gonna take this middle path, which I think we all agree is hard to do and highly dependent on how attractive the market is, it's the right move. I'm less strident about it since Justin talked to me about it. We had a heart-to-heart on Slack. And I see the utility in it, but I also think
I see your point,
I just kind of feel like you're delaying the inevitable to a certain degree. So much of this team depends on Lou Williams, Danilo Gallinari locked up for a significant period of time. All these guys who are 25, 28, 29 years old, and it's winning 42, 43, 44 games is not a sustainable way to build a team if you can't land those free agents.
The thing is who are you going to hire? You're going to trade another first-round pick for a coach? So Doc is a guy players like around the league.
Yes.
Clippers are going to have cap space next summer. So keep
it's
around.
who's still out there, right? Dwayne Casey. Is that really a huge upgrade over Doc?
Oh, man.
Steve Clifford, essentially a Doc guy from the Doc school, am I right? That sort of hard-nosed defensive school. I don't really know who's out there unless you want to take a run at a college coach and hope you hit the next Brad Stevens.
That was my thought too, because it's you talk about if you're going to fire your coach, you need to know who you're going to get after him, and especially if the players like Doc and you want at least a semi-competitive team, and you're trying to see if you can package a deal for Kawhi, then why go and get why go and get like Stackhouse, for example? Like he's not going to come in and be like the guy right away. So there was really no upgrade there. So I don't that's why I personally was more like, this is a fun move.
I think the thing that's really exciting about this move, incredibly exciting about this move, is you have another year of Doc Rivers combined with an Austin Rivers contract year.
Yeah, that's right.
And
It's like trying to enrich the Rivers generational wealth.
It's a Jared Kushner-esque conflict of interest that I just cannot wait to watch.
Isaac looks like he either ate a ghost pepper or is looking at the next 5 years of his life. Kevin, let's talk a little bit about the Kauai Sweepstakes because today, I can't remember who reported it. I think Slam was talking about, that may have been aggregated, I can't remember, but that the Clippers were going to get into the Kauai mix. We were talking about this a little bit before the game today, and I think I'm probably on the side of like the Spurs don't have to do anything at this point. And like, this is a lot of fun speculation, but if I'm Popovich and if I'm Buford, I'm just like, you leak as many stories as you want, talk to as many people as you want, try and stir up as many like fake trade packages as you want. You're a top 3 player. Unless we get a top 3 player back, forget it.
Well, it's like we talked about earlier. Like, you know, the deal Bill Simmons is throwing out a lot, like the 12th pick, 13th pick with Tobias Harris and a future Clippers first. It's like, yeah, maybe as a last resort if you're the Clippers, but you don't do that in June, right?
Right.
If you're the Spurs, I think you try to drag this out, try to fix the relationship, and if you can't, say, hey, guess what, Kawhi? You got to sit out the whole year again? Come back. Come back in training camp and play.
Yeah.
And then maybe he raises his value, or you screw yourself. That's always possible. But I think you got to try to extend it if you're the Spurs.
Well, what I thought was interesting is before this, there was a local report in the San Antonio News, Express News, I believe it is, that suggested that the Spurs were willing to offer Kawhi that max extension, which seems like
a public olive branch.
Yeah, it seems like it was timed well to suggest we don't have to move quickly here. We still hold this big option over Kawhi.
I love talking about Kawhi trade packages and possible destinations for Kawhi and whether or not like Jordan Brand is behind all this. Like, but would it surprise you at all if you like wake up on Friday and it's like Spurs and Leonard like reach agreement on Supermax?
Not at all. I mean, I think that LaMarcus Aldridge's first year kind of points the way forward in terms of like a framework for how it could work. You know, LaMarcus was unhappy the whole year, wanted out, Whisper said, and then Pop figured it out. And then the next year is like, that was on me. I didn't know how to do it. I figured it out.
Or does it go like Vince Carter when he got traded many years ago, and they traded him for old Alonzo Mourning and like 2 second-round picks or whatever it was.
Right.
It could go that way too, where it gets worse during the season. So like that's like the bet the Spurs have to make. Like, you got to try to fix it because Kawhi is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if you can't fix it, then they're in a spot where like, oh, do we wait? Do we hold off here, or do we pull the trigger like October, right before the season?
Yeah, the hardened timing.
Yeah.
Did you?
I think the more recent example of that is the Kyrie thing, right? Like where he was upset, he wanted a trade, and the Cavs gave it to him, and now it's like, if Kawhi's unhappy, but if you have the infrastructure there that the Cavs didn't have to like sort of
Dan Gilbert made that trade, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
what I'm saying.
accounts.
So it's like, that's kind of your fork in the road, I think, for the Spurs.
Well, what is enough for Kawhi then? Like, would you build a package around Brandon Ingram? Is Markelle Fultz and maybe Dario and picks enough? I don't know. Like, we're at the point here where it's like,
I'm saying if I'm the Spurs,
anything.
I just would say no to everything.
Yeah.
So you would bank like going all the way to February, the trade deadline, like at that point, and then you make your decision, or you're just riding it out.
I'd be very, very, very interested to see if Kawhi Leonard did not play until February. Is this is he on strike? Is that what's going on?
Like a full holdout.
Is that what's happening?
Now with Dodgers games.
Pal, any other questions before we get out of here?
Well, there's a question from Labin Massey. Who's the fall guy for the Warriors if they lose?
Ooh, I like that.
That's a good question.
Probably KD. Just because it's always KD, right?
Draymond would be the obvious, like, it depends on what happens. If they just get beat straight up, I think you probably would blame the lack of depth.
Is it Steve Kerr?
Man,
why did Kerr not call the timeout? I can see people doing that.
But is that like 2 mistakes in 3 years he's made? Like,
I mean, we're talking about the fall guy.
I don't know.
Do we want to talk about their center rotation and like how they have like 4 centers that they're not playing?
That's bad.
That's the only thing.
That's not Looney's fault.
Yeah,
Looney did not step up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, is there really a fall guy?
Can you have a fall guy?
You can't blame Bob Myers because like that's what he has to deal with. He's made some good draft picks. I mean, these guys just aren't ready yet.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there would not be a fall guy. I mean, you're talking about like guys being injured, KD not taking the shot, and then Clay not calling the timeout. Those are kind of fluky things, but at the same time, like, it's not like we feel like the Warriors are now not going to win this series for sure. I feel like there's not a pure scapegoat yet. It would have to be some kind of real
and could be
disaster.
the best. And losing could be like one of the best things that happens to them because it could energize this particular group for the next couple of seasons.
That's like Draymond. That's like the Draymond take when he said the other night, like, "This is good for us. This is a good feeling for us. We need to feel this."
It would subject us to an entire summer of wondering what should the Warriors do to improve, and we would start to hear whispers about Clay, whether or not he should take that extension or go elsewhere, whether or not Draymond should be traded now or in the future. Honestly, it would be great for the Ringer.com in our blog section.
I agree with you. Any last questions?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys missed this little bit of news. It was pretty. I think it's pretty important. It was reported that LiAngelo Ball is going to have a private workout with the Warriors. I would like to know your comment on that.
A private workout?
A private workout
Who
with the
reported
Warriors.
that?
Warriors on NBCSN.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't
No,
like
it's
LeVar?
legit. No, it's legit. It was not Big Baller Brand Media.
Honestly, Nick Young's on the Warriors. But like crazier things can happen. Nick Young was played 9 minutes, like, or whatever it was last night.
Listen, if you're light years ahead and you think that Lonzo is going to be a player maybe 10 years from now and he might be getting into free agency,
right?
Wouldn't you want to get
This is
into the
playing
family
a long
circle
game
now?
for Lonzo.
Why not? Relationships matter. Same thing with Kostas Antetokounmpo.
Oh, yeah?
In the draft this year.
There you go.
Right?
I like it.
Set up for Giannis's free agency.
It's all connected. All right, for Jason, for Kevin, for Justin, for Paolo, for everybody in the back, this has been Group Chat. Check out Draft Class going live tomorrow after Rockets Warriors. He check on Sunday. Chris and Kev on Tuesday. He check everything next week. We'll keep it going throughout the finals.
Basketball is very good.